Hi, welcome to my channel, Mostly Mental Mary, where I talk about mostly mental health, and my name is Mary. First time guest ever, I have my Aunt Jeanna with me here today. She is going to let me interview her about mental health today so that I have a little bit of a different perspective on my channel and it's not just me, so yay!
Hello.
Okay, so obviously this is a mental health channel, so what is your experience with mental health?
Well, I've had experience personally with mental health issues, family-wise with mental health issues, generationally, and hey doggies, and with friends as well. Personally, I've had anxiety issues all of my life. I know my sister and I had many experiences that she would branch out into, and then I wouldn't even try to do because my anxiety just wouldn't let me go there. An example is summer camp. She was ready, rip roaring, ready to go to summer camp, and she enjoyed it. And although I wanted to go, and when we dropped her off, I really, really wanted to be able to stay and enjoy it. I just couldn't, and my family just thought that I was a homebody.
Yeah. So at the time, no one acknowledged that it was your anxiety that kept you from being able to go?
No, nobody throughout my childhood realized that I was having anxiety issues. And then as an adult, I started having depression issues as well. And so I've had depression that I've had to deal with as an adult. Family generationally has had depression as well, so a lot to experience. And we had a friend as well that committed suicide between our 9th and 10th grade year. That was really close because we had the same little cohort that was in honors that moved. We had the same 15 students that had every class together, and the summer between 9th and 10th grade, she committed suicide. And
your friend did?
Yeah, the friend did. And so that really affected us as well, that little cohort. That was the first ever experience I ever had with suicide.
Yeah.
So I've had quite a lot of experience.
Quite a lot, both with yourself and in your life. So obviously, one of the reasons that I wanted you on my channel is because we're related, and there's the concept of whether or not mental health is genetic. So you have mental health experience. You have mental health experiences. I have mental health experiences. Do you think that mental health is genetic?
Yes, I think that it has a genetic component as well as an environmental component. There are people that have the genetic tendencies that never experience depression or anxiety or any other type of mental health issue. There are people that don't have the genetic component that do experience mental health issues, usually because of some sort of trauma or tragedy in their life. And there are people like me who have the genetic tendency and then also have some sort of trauma in their life that bring about the issues, and the genetic tendency just comes out and becomes worse because of that.
And then there's different levels as well, because I think the last time I looked at numbers, it said 1 in 3 experience it at some point in their lives, and 1 in 25 have it lifelong. So I think there's a lot of people who experience depression and anxiety and never get diagnosed. So I think that 1 out of 3 is actually a lot higher, personally. So since it is, in our family, have you found that to be helpful or hurtful when it comes to your supporting your own mental health? Because I know personally, since I have had you to lean on and get advice about anxiety and depression, it has helped me. So I don't want to say that your mental health issues have helped me, but because you've had them and had the experience, that has helped me. Have you found that to be the case?
I'm very glad that I've been able to help you. I can't say that I had that experience personally myself.
Okay.
I wish that I did, but I didn't.
You didn't.
But I'm glad that I'm able to help you and others, the next generation down. One of my sons has some really strong anxiety issues, and we talk quite a bit. He doesn't live here, and he says, "Mom, I don't know how I would ever get through without you."
That's the reason I brought it up, because it's, there are people who've never experienced it and don't understand it, and it's a lot harder to communicate with those people. Mm-hmm. So I've appreciated that my family is on the same rounds, or I've appreciated that my family has similar experiences, not because I wish that upon them, but because that makes it feel more valid when I start talking about these things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I noticed things, with the younger generation that I had experienced, but I don't think that my parents understood. Like, they didn't see the anxiety in me as a child, and then when I started having the severe depressive episodes, they were like, they didn't quite understand why I was so depressed.
Right. And I think that's common, because I even had with my mom, your sister, when I went to her and said, I think I have a mental health issue, she was like, oh, you're a teenager, that's hormones. Mm-hmm. So I think that's not necessarily anyone's fault. That's just, it's so hard to distinguish between growing up moodiness and a diagnosable disorder.
Yeah. It's not something that has really been recognized. It was, years ago, it was something that was, people were more ashamed of it, and they kind of kept it private.
Right.
And, or even if they had it in the family, it wasn't diagnosed or brought forward for others to see. So there would be generations of families that actually experienced it, but never had it diagnosed, because it has always been hidden so much.
Right. So do you think, when you were 25, how old I am, do you think you could have had a YouTube channel or a media format where you're talking about your mental health?
Oh, no. First of all, there was no
YouTube, but like a media format.
But no, even if there had been a YouTube at that time, no, I couldn't have, because there was such a stigma at that time.
And there still is now, which is one of the reasons that I've started this channel. But it's nice to hear that there's been a lot of improvement, because that looks forward to more improvement in the future.
There has been a ton of improvement, because, at that time, when I had my first major depressive episode and had to go out of work for a while I took care of myself, there was the big issue with, am I going to lose my job? Are they going to find out what's actually wrong?
Right.
If they find out, will I lose my job? And, there were the hush-hush about what's actually going on with her.
Right.
Because I was depressed.
You were depressed, yeah.
And it's no different than any other disorder.
Now, when I had my breakdown, I went on FMLA. Did you have the chance to go on medical leave during your breakdown? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you still had that access with, as far as the laws and stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there was actually FMLA at that time, but I was fortunate enough that we had a sick leave bank.
Okay.
And
so you were still allowed to use the sick leave. Okay, good.
I was able to use the sick leave bank. That was very good. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of your 25-year-old self and whether or not you could have had a YouTube channel when YouTube didn't exist, what advice do you have for your 25-year-old self?
Well, the first thing would be to take it easy on yourself, because I had to be the best at everything. I've always been a perfectionist. I had to be the perfect mother. I had 2 young children at the time when I had my first depressive episode. So I had to be the perfect mother. I had to be the perfect wife. I had to be the perfect daughter and granddaughter.
So you find yourself doing a lot of that black and white thinking, like either you're perfect or you're nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that too. That's, I mean, when I was teaching, I went all in, like, so much so that I was awarded for it in the first couple of years. But what no one knows is I'm not doing well because although I'm being awarded for all this effort into being the perfect teacher, I'm not taking care of myself at home.
I would tell my 25-year-old self that I needed to, at that time, go ahead and find a good professional counselor and stick with that counselor until I worked through the issues that I had. I did have a counselor right after that very first depressive episode, but there were other issues that I was working on at the time that kind of took me away from my specific issues. I was having marital issues, and I had some trauma in my very young life that my brain had hidden from me.
You had repressed.
Yes, I had repressed, and I could not remember everything. At that young adult time, I had started remembering little bits and pieces of things, but I couldn't remember all of it. And it took me time to fill in the pieces. And I didn't find a really good counselor that worked on just my personal issues until I was in my early 40s.
So, advice is to find the good counselor?
Find a good counselor, yeah.
I would like to add to my previous self it's okay if you don't like your current counselor. It's okay to change counselors.
Exactly.
Because I've gotten stuck where therapy's just not for me because this isn't working. But then I've had really great therapists like my current one that really helps.
Yeah. It's okay to find, change until you find one that works well for you.
It's like dating. You just keep finding.
Yeah.
You want to date around a few different therapists till you find one that is your perfect match.
And because I was wanting to be the perfect Christian at the time too, I had people telling me, go to your minister for counseling. And he just wasn't trained for what I needed at the time.
Yeah. They're great for that faith support, which is a great coping skill to have for your mental health, but you can't rely on that faith support only if you also need therapy.
Right. He wasn't trained in the kind of abuse that I had received as a child.
Right. Plus, he didn't go to school for like cognitive behavioral therapy or any other forms of therapy.
Yeah. Put my mental health first, because if I'm not healthy, then my whole family's not healthy.
Yeah.
Because I would put myself last.
Right.
Everyone else came first, and then I would come along. And if there was any extra time left over, then I would take care of yourself. Me. But what I've learned through the years is that I need to take care of myself first and my mental health first, because if I don't take care of my mental health and my physical well-being first, then there's really nothing left of me to take care of others.
So one of my last videos was on coping skills, which I'll link. I don't know which way to do it, this way or I will link up here if you want to check out my coping skills video. What are your coping skills?
Well, I've had quite a few coping skills over the years, and one of the first ones that I had was journaling, and I started that young and continued it for quite some time. And I know that you did have a video about journaling. I enjoyed that one. And I started out just writing what I was thinking.
I did the same thing.
Free form writing. Breathing techniques. My counselor taught me different breathing techniques. One of them first was just to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And she had me put a hand over my stomach right at the abdomen and breathe in through your nose until you felt your abdomen rise and get completely full, and then out through your mouth until it all emptied out. And then I had another one, do the 4, 7, 8, I think, 4, 7, 8, where you breathe in 4, hold it 7, and then out 8.
Okay.
There's another breathing in 7 and out 11, and that also had the distraction for me.
The breaths. Okay.
Then the progressive muscle relaxation, because I, in my anxiety, would tense up all over. So counselor would try to get me to relax with just starting with your head and the muscles in your head and face, and specifically think about relaxing those muscles. And then when you get those muscles relaxed, move down to your neck and think about relaxing those muscles. And then down to your shoulders. And specifically think about relaxing those muscles. And then down your back. And gradually go down to each bit of your body. And I would have to consciously go back up and relax something again before I got all the way down, because naturally with me and all my anxiety, something would tense back up again. But that really did work well for me. The relaxation.
I bet you could put in progressive muscle relaxation guided meditation, and that you could find stuff to help you, because I like the guided stuff. My meditation's always guided.
Yeah. And in fact, we did combine the breathing techniques with the progressive muscle relaxation, which actually became a sort of meditation.
Right.
Because I've gotten meditation tapes. That's another one of my coping skills, was meditation.
I love meditation.
and that the meditation tapes that I got seemed an awful lot like those two combined too. So, and prayer. Before I started meditation was just prayer.
I think that overlap pretty easily.
Yeah. There was a time in my religious faith that I was afraid to move to meditation, because I had been brought up that meditation was bad, connecting it with other religions.
Other religions, right.
And so I just kept with prayer. And it took me a while moving through my own connection with God to realize that meditation is okay. God's not against meditation. And then I was able to move on and get guided meditation tapes.
I've kind of had that overlap, because I started with meditation not thinking about it in a faith way, but then as I've been meditating, I'm like, okay, this kind of feels like the same way when I'm praying, but I don't know what to say, so I just kind of sit with God. So I can take my meditation and make that a prayer just by like focusing on my breath, yes, but focusing on my breath in the presence of God. So, yeah.
Another thing you've already talked about is exercise.
Yes.
Yeah. I started off walking. I got into aerobics. Aerobics was a big thing back then. And it was really important to me, because I had always been a little overweight all my life. And aerobics got me trimmed up. And I was really in shape, and that gave me a lot of self-esteem. Personally at that time. Okay, another coping skill is taking long hot bath.
I do that too, and I didn't even think to put that in my coping skills video, because I didn't even take that as a coping skill.
Yeah, and coming home from work, being stressed and needing to relax, and just running a bath, a hot bath, putting bubbles in it, or oils,
essential oils, yeah.
And lighting candles, and
yeah, because that invokes the smell, and then also the temperature, the warmth can be very relaxing for your muscles, which can help relieve that tension.
Another one was playing with or reading to my children, because that gave me perspective.
Right.
Because I'd come home stressed out, I taught, so I worked with kids all day long, so you might think that reading to my young kids might not be a stress reliever, but it was, because it gave me perspective, or just playing with my kids gave me perspective. This is my family. This is what's important to me.
Right.
can't do that anymore because they're grown men now.
Well, you have your grandbaby.
I have my first grandbaby. Oh, I love him to death. He's like 3 months old, going on 3 months old now. So I've got one just all over again.
So that means you can speak to parenting. That's not something I can do on my channel. I can't talk about parenting with mental health. Mm-hmm. So you say actually, being with the kids was something that helped your mental health versus, because sometimes I worry that I won't have the energy to do that kind of thing when I eventually have kids.
No, it definitely helped.
Okay.
Yeah, it helped with me, and just seeing the little faces in the morning, it helped me get up out of bed. Over the summer when I would schedule activities, we always went to the summer movies, and that was a scheduled thing we did every summer, and it was something we looked forward to. A single mom with them, I always took them to the beach. It would just be the three of us, and we have really good memories of going to the beach.
Oh my gosh, I just realized that we have the similar coping skill, except I take care of my dogs. No, you seriously, I'll take them to the dog park, and taking time to give them a bath or brush out their fur is that nurturing.
Exactly.
See? So get a dog before you have a child. We're not saying children, cure mental health issues. That's not the...
No, don't have a baby just so you
don't
can
have a baby. Go get a dog. Go get a dog.
Making a grateful list. Things you're grateful for.
I've heard that. That's been a little too cheesy for me. I've yet to do that kind of thing.
It's helped me, and even if I didn't write it down at times, just thinking about it in my head. I'm so grateful for a home. Even I'm so grateful I have air conditioning.
Yeah.
Or I'm so grateful I have a heater, because there are lots of people that don't have air conditioning or a heater. I'm so grateful I have running water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then I have a question for you. Sometimes I have an issue with feeling valid because I grew up very middle class. My mother was a doctor. As far as on the financial way, I was very privileged. Now, we'll not include trauma and stuff, but financially, I'd have lived a very privileged life. So how do you feel valid? Because I think about the stuff like that. I have a air conditioning, and I have rent paid, and I have a couch to sleep on. I have a bed to sleep on. That makes me feel well, then why in the world are you feeling any depression? You shouldn't be feeling depression. It makes me feel worse.
I never thought of it that way.
Okay, great. Yay!
That never crossed my mind.
That makes me feel worse, because then I'm well, you have all of this. You don't have any reason to feel depressed. So then I feel worse because I'm depressed anyway. No, you never thought about that?
Never thought about that. My grateful list just helped me feel better, because it helped me get out of myself and think, well, I am blessed.
Right. I haven't been able to do a grateful list, but what has helped me with thinking around stuff like that is remembering that my depression and my anxiety is a medical condition. Mm-hmm. I don't feel guilty for having to wear my glasses because I can't see without them, so why should I feel guilty for having to work through my depression?
Exactly. And one more thing that I had wanted to mention was a to-do list.
Okay.
Because I've always been very organized, and because I told you I was a perfectionist.
Right.
And so making to-do list not only kept me organized, but it also gave me something to check off.
Right.
When I had done it.
You could have that satisfaction of having gotten it done.
Satisfaction of, check that off. Okay, got that done,
Mm-hmm.
And then, and sometimes I would just do it on a regular list, like things to do at home, checklist. And then sometimes I would do it in a calendar, like this day I need to do this, and this, and this day I need to do this, and this. Now I do it in my calendar.
Yeah. I like to do a do now list and a do later list, because that helps me prioritize, because sometimes if I put it all in one list, especially if that list is over, I think 7-ish things is where it starts to freak me out, then it's too many things.
Yeah.
But if my do now is only 3 and my do later is 6, then I'm okay, well, I don't have to worry about that. The do now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So as we wrap up, what advice do you have for all 25 subscribers of Mental Health Mary?
Well, first, don't feel defective because you have a mental health issue.
Right.
Because having a mental health issue is just like having a physical health issue. Think if you have diabetes or high cholesterol. I do everything that I can do with my coping skills and everything that I've learned in counseling to control my anxiety and to care for my depression, but it's not enough. And I have to remain on medication for depression.
Right.
And that's okay. I'm not embarrassed of it.
I'm on medication too.
There was a point in my life where I thought, I'm going to try coming off this medication. Because, I just hate being on it. And let's see if I'm older and more matured now, and maybe I can do better without it. And I'd been off of it several months, and I started feeling the issues returning. And I said, it's not worth the chance.
Yeah.
I'm feeling those feelings to returning, and I don't want to go there again.
Right.
So I went back to my doctor and said, it's time for me to go back on. And I know now that the rest of my life, I'm going to have to take that medication. Just like the rest of my life, I'm going to have to take the high cholesterol medication.
Yeah.
We can't control it any more than we can control having high cholesterol or diabetes or any other physical ailment.
Right.
Yeah. So that's first. And then don't get down on yourself at all or embarrassed by it. And then also there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Make sure you get your good counselor. You go through your counseling. Make sure you do take advantage of those coping skills. Find the coping skills that work for you, because not all coping skills work for everyone.
Right.
And there's tons of coping skills out there.
Right.
Not just the ones that we've mentioned. There's many, many more. So you just have to find the ones that work for you. Make sure you work through your issues with the counselor. Take your medications.
Yes.
And communicate with your doctor. If you're having some side effects to the medication that you don't like, don't just stop taking it. Make sure you communicate that with your doctor. If you have any questions about your medication, communicate that with your doctor. I know I had an issue with my son that there was a side effect that the medication was making him really sleepy in the mornings. He took it at night. It helped him sleep. It was supposed to help his anxiety, but it was making him sleep late in the morning. And he just stopped taking it. He said, Mom, I can't wake up in the morning, so I'm just not taking it. And I'm like, son, you can't do that. You can't stop taking it on your own. Please.
Yes, please. Don't ever go off your psychiatric medication on your own. Please always consult your doctor before, because there are techniques that you have to go through, like you have to get weaned off. Otherwise, it can even cause worse depression or worse anxiety than you started with.
Take it easy on yourself. That was one of the things I said I would tell my 25-year-old self. Take it easy on yourself. Nobody else is going to really take it easy on you. You might as well take it easy on yourself.
And know that you're doing better than you think you're doing.
Yeah.
You're like always doing better
Yeah.
than you think you're doing.
Yeah. That's about it. And you can make it through.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on my channel.
You're welcome.
It's really cool. If you're still around, this will probably be my longest video so far. So if you're still here, then thanks. That's it for this episode. Make sure to subscribe for more mental health advice and relatable content. Bye.